Friday, and happy Earth Day to all you earthbound human beings out there. We're here to talk about cannabis, but yep, happy Earth Day, Jason. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be on Earth. Happy Earth Day.
Yeah, great day to be on Earth, right? I
Yeah.
mean, maybe if you ask Elon or a few of the other billionaires out there trying to make way to Mars, or you know, shaping uh, you know, uh, phallic style rockets to break out of the atmosphere and go have some fun with the other guys. But you know, I'm pretty appreciative to be freeway side right here and talking about cannabis. So thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. STL Batman, good to see you. Good to see you. Happy Friday. So we had a big week this week, Jason, and as I'm sure you knew, 420 was upon us last Wednesday, and there was a lot of action this week. Posturing and that kind of stuff, but also a lot of smoke being blown all over the atmosphere, including by some politicians. But you know, when it comes down to it, is how did you spend your 420? I know how you spent your 420.
I was gonna say
Tell
with
them how you
you
spent. Yeah, at the office,
at
running
the
through.
office. Uh, yeah, having some fun in the app. Yeah, I think there's some people here waiting to find out where Mr. Nug is. We'll talk about that pretty soon. But yeah, that's we still got some events going on in the app for all you guys that have the Trichomes app.
Nice. And just for clarity, because I got hit up during the day to day as well. Someone sent me a DM about when does it end for uh, the Canna Crush contest or the other contest, and they said end of day to day, correct?
Uh, that is correct. Yeah, end of day today. The post contest and end of day tomorrow, but the
End of
games
day
are
tomorrow.
today. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So, I know Jason's manning the comments in our app right now. I have it shut down because my other notifications go kind of crazy on my phone. But as I said in the morning buzz earlier today, I will definitely be having the app open much more so I can talk to the people in the app as well at the same time. Um, but yeah, so uh, we got a lot of stuff going on this week. We had a lot of stuff in the news, some great stories going on, and some things happening that we'll get to. But yeah, for everybody who's here about the app and figuring these things out, I'm sure Jason has some stuff he's going to be talking about on Mister Nug, right?
I didn't even think it'd be this big of a thing, but I guess he's harder to find than I thought he was going to be. Um, yeah, so well, it's interesting to see how quickly somebody could tag me in it once I tell everybody where it's at.
Nice.
Yeah, so first person gets a $50 gift card, and then we're having one random person for everybody else. So even if you're not first, still comment on it because you have a chance to get a $20 gift card as well.
There we go. There we
Yeah.
go. Whether you're taking that gift card and parlaying it to gas or nugs or gassy nugs, it's, use it how you want to. But yeah, thanks for everybody participating. And enough about the app for a second. We'll get back to that.
Yep.
But the headlines this week, go over them kind of all together, and then we'll go one by one. But we've got a Florida official that sues the Biden administration over gun rights for medical marijuana patients on 420. And then keeping with that you know topic as far as gun use and that kind of thing is New Jersey's Attorney General memo on marijuana use by police sparks pushback as legal sales launch. And again, we're talking about two things that are gun rights issues that are basically federal issues based upon whether you're a medical patient or recreational consumer, that kind of thing. But if you're registered with the state as a medical user, you lose your Second Amendment rights, currently speaking. And then the last thing up, and we're going to be rolling a clip for you like we did during the earlier buzz, is another U.S. senator, another U.S. Senate candidate smoked marijuana in a campaign ad, and that fell on 420 as well. Um, you know, I guess where do you want to start with this, Jason? Do you want to start at guns or
Sure. It's
all
always
right?
good to start with guns, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Let's go with the well, I guess let's start with the New Jersey one, because that just happened, and yesterday was the launch of their legal recreational cannabis sales. New Jersey launched 421, initiating a few of the medical cannabis dispensaries that were around, as ways for people to 21 and over grab recreational cannabis. And one of the things they said up front, in an article that we covered earlier on the week, was that off-duty police officers were going to be allowed to consume cannabis. And all of a sudden, boom, we've got 3 or 4 different groups speaking up, and people are upset about it. And then, it comes down to the fact that, you know, I don't know if you knew this, Jason, or not, but when you register with the state for a medical marijuana card, you lose your right to bear arms
Mhm.
across the nation. And so, first of all, what do you think about that? And then next, what do you think about New Jersey and recanting on their police officers getting able to use cannabis?
Yeah, I think there's some sort of loophole as like if the weapons are used for government use or something like that. There is a loophole in the verbiage, but I mean, realistically, you know, it's like you can't punish somebody for drinking off duty, on the weekend. If they're drunk at work, obviously that's a problem. So it comes back to
Right.
kind of what we were talking about before, where there's all these bills and things that are trying to um, enhance research on how it actually affects performance and it affects your, if basically we need to create kind of a standard as far as like if you're inhibited or when you're actually intoxicated and how much that's inhibiting you, like some sort of breathalyzer for cannabis. Because right now, like we were talking about before, people getting punished for taking a test and having to show up for something they did a month ago or weeks ago. And that's kind of the same issue here. If we had that in place, I don't think this would be an issue. It's kind of an all or nothing that you're trying to do, and they're all just pushing just that law that you can't you if you are a cannabis user, you just can't have a firearm. So they're just kind of throwing that into the mix with law enforcement. But in reality, it shouldn't really affect how they perform if they're not like actually using it on the job. They shouldn't be penalized for that. um and it's just like PTSD and people with like veterans and stuff like that. It's a high stress job, so in the long run it may be beneficial for some individuals who suffer from that in law enforcement. So I think they got to take a closer look.
Yeah, definitely. In the article that we were reading from, there's some verbiage as far as existing policy, and then the relevant exception. And as far as existing federal policy for people seeking to purchase or possess firearms with respect to marijuana, quote unquote, it shall be unlawful for any person to sell or otherwise dispose of any firearm or ammunition to any person knowing or having reasonable cause to believe that such person is an unlawful user or addicted to any controlled substance, end quote. Uh, then again, quote, it shall be unlawful for any person who is an unlawful user or addicted to any controlled substance to ship, transport, or interstate foreign commerce or possess in affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition, or to receive any firearm or ammunition that has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. And then the relevant exception that could apply to law enforcement is the provisions of this chapter, except for sections 922 D9, 922 G9, and the provisions relating to firearm subjects to the prohibitions of Section 922P, shall not apply with respect to the transportation, shipment, receipt, possession, or importation of any firearm or ammunition imported, sold, or shipped to, or issued for the use of the United States or any department or agency thereof, or
Mhm.
any state or any department, agency, or political subdivision thereof. Holy crap, that was
Yeah.
a lot. Little Mac 86. We will take care of that. We'll get you an invite link right to the app right now. And we'll put that in the comments here real quick. Don't know if we can get that queued up while we're doing that, but yeah, Jason, there is a lot of specificities right there as far as who can and can't handle a gun right now. And is that a loophole that New Jersey's taking a look at, you think?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, they're trying to go full force with the legalization, and I mean, the truth is, people know, what's kind of makes sense and what doesn't. It's just that people who are totally against cannabis, just like, oh, hey, wait, just we gotta make it a blanket law. All the other states are having zero tolerance. Like we can't be any different. But in reality, there are groups and people out there that understand that it doesn't make sense, and then they're just trying to point that out.
Right. Let's see. And then so they issued directive yesterday too, right? And this is going to play into our next story with the group or the person out of Florida, that the agricultural commissioner that sued the Biden
Yeah.
administration. But Stephen Fulop, directive issued today below. There'll be no ambiguity on how JCPD will approach this. Bottom line is, trust is fragile between communities and police. We should make sure that there isn't compromised judgment in New Jersey. Let's see. And so it goes on. There's let's see if we can share this real quick. You know what? That took me somewhere I didn't want to go. Anyway, so they're issuing a memorandum. I can't read it here. There you go. Due to all the above, the use of marijuana will remain prohibited in the Jersey City Police Department, both for the current members and applicants. So right now, their current stance on it is, you know what, we're going to go ahead and take it away. And based upon public opinion and what's been out there, I think they they did the right thing, basically, as per standards for everybody and public safety and the rules that be right now, because there's no way to prove it otherwise. So that's the directive they put out yesterday.
Exactly. I mean, until they have something that can test like on the spot, I mean, there's not really a way to enforce it, fairly.
Right.
So once that happens, then they probably have a chance.
Yeah. Well, and then that brings up this other thing. And what we were talking about, we spoke about it earlier. There's a lot of response to it on YouTube and on our app. But the Florida official sues Biden administration over gun rights for medical marijuana patients on 420. I asked you about it earlier, and aside from both of these subjects, is what what's your stance on this? I mean, like the ability for someone who has a medical or prescription of anything, right? Let alone cannabis. Should cannabis be anything different than any other prescription or anything like that? What do you think about that? Opinion only, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know, because I can go look at both sides of it. I mean, if you look at it on the legal standpoint, as far as like your rights and the ability to execute those rights, and that's one thing. If you look at just kind of public opinion and safety, that's another. But so the problem is, yeah, there are a lot of other substances that are worse where you can still have a firearm. That's the issue. If you're gonna do that, then you need to take a closer look at everything out there and add a lot to the list if cannabis is going to be out there, because currently cannabis doesn't make sense on the list that it's on right now, unless you increase it with other things. Um,
Right.
so if they're going to do that, then that's fine too, for safety reasons. But you know, it doesn't make sense with the list. But that's just the controlled substance list. I mean, with the whole federal legalization, that's the whole issue. It doesn't belong on that list to begin with. So that's the main problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's see here. Bubba Fett says military needs to stop discharging service members that choose to medicate with cannabis instead of just taking what the VA chucks at them, usually opiates. And we've talked about that earlier, Bubba. I truthfully believe that this is something that could definitely help a lot of those military and people who serve for our country. But again, this is it falls right in line with the talk we're having, is the ability to discern when somebody's under the influence, when they're not, is something that stands in the way of public safety and these gun bearing laws. And unfortunately, that extends to our service members as well. Um, it shouldn't have a bearing on whether or not somebody served, right? And or and then in my opinion, if people who consume alcohol, right, are allowed to bear arms, or if people are allowed to consume recreational cannabis and still bear arms, then people who take cannabis for medical reasons should also still have the right to bear arms, because essentially, you know, whether recreational inebriation or marked inebriation, when it comes down to cannabis and or recreational cannabis, excuse me, alcohol or recreational cannabis use, people are using it, for enjoyment, for inebriation, that kind of thing. Yet, if there isn't anything out there that stifles um, their gun use, right, or gun possession.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, there's tons of people that shouldn't have a gun that own a gun right now. I mean, besides the point of just like the legality of it, there's just some people who like you know those guys are like, dude, this guy should not have a gun. But there's, I mean, that's the right. If you're gonna let him have a gun, then there should be. There's a lot of people with a solid head on their shoulders that are medical cannabis patients that can handle it better than a lot of guys out there can. So again, it's just there's a lot that you have to look into before you kind of blanket everything. But
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a weird thing because I mean, in my opinion, just because it's cannabis legalization is more kind of a left thing. Gun amendment of having the right to bear arms is more of a conservative thing. So it's kind of like a mixture. Like I don't really know who is the group to fight for this because the ones that the ones that want gun rights don't want cannabis, and the ones on cannabis don't really want guns. So I think it's a kind of a smaller segment that has to do this fight. I mean, what do you think?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean, specifically by the numbers and broad strokes, yes. But in this specific circumstance, what you have is, and quoting NBC News here, which, whatever you think of NBC, but top Florida Democrat sues Biden administration over marijuana, right? That's not the
Mhm.
headline you were just talking about, but it's a top Florida Democrat. And she's quoted as, I'm suing the Biden administration because people's rights are being limited. Medical marijuana is legal, guns are legal. This is about people's rights and their freedoms to responsibly have both. Um, and I guess to a different degree, that's what I was saying before, right?
Mhm.
Is public intoxication for alcohol was set at a 1 to 2 drink limit, right? Um, and that's called public, above that's public intoxication or driving under the influence and that kind of thing. They set limits on it, and I mean the limits are pretty darn low, so once they find a way to quantifiably um, discern how high you were and how high you are at that moment in time, it's going to be one of those things as to where um, yeah, that will really set a definable moment for precedence on what we're actually talking about here. Because prior to this, it's all anecdotal. It's like, hey, well, this person has cannabis in their system. Well, they could have had cannabis in their system for 30 days ago, and that's where you don't get any culpable, you know. But I guess responsibility towards people. That's where the responsible consumption thereof is the problem.
Right. And I mean the argument would be that, when you're a cannabis patient, actually when you're a patient, technically, they're under an assumption that you're always dosing at some point in time as with a prescription. Whereas, when you drink alcohol, you don't have a prescription for alcohol, so you don't always have to be taking it, you don't always have to be drinking every day, even though people
Right.
do it all the time. But that being said, every prescription is different. Some people may be completely, like the THC might be crazy and for the entire day, and they are kind of not all there all the time, but some people may have a lighter amount and not all day. And, so again, yeah, it comes down to testing, because there's not way to blanket everybody under that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and Wicked Smart just weighed in. Being under the influence of cannabis has never impaired my driving. Um, admitting to driving, doing that kind of thing. It's, hey, I feel the same way about my driving and impairment. Back when I used to do it, I don't promote it and that kind of thing. But it boils down to the fact of Wicked Smart is right now the only way they have to discern whether somebody's under the influence or not in the state of California is through field sobriety tests, where people are actually going over here and doing the touch the nose thing and follow my finger and do that kind of thing, as to where essentially if you pass the field sobriety test, you should by then by all means be able to get back in your car and walk away, because otherwise you don't have a way to test for it. And yeah, realistically, that's one of the biggest problems there. And I imagine why they implemented something on the alcohol level of that 0.08 here in California. And I know it's different in different states and that kind of thing, but essentially over 1 or 2 drinks in your system without properly being, the proper time of being associated with processing that allows you to be under the influence after, 2 drinks, 2 stiff drinks, and going out in the public, you're probably blowing over a 0.08. And that was put in place for public safety, for whatever reasons, whether they wanted, to be able to arrest people for drinking alcohol or whatever, but essentially under the name of public safety. And that's what's lacking right here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I've seen we fired up some of the comments there. We've got a lot of people in there. Anybody, how are the comments going on the app?
Let's see here. Oh, I mean, just give a shout out to everybody here. GTER 420, My Herbal Remedy, Jamie, who's been searching for Mr. Nug, Mr. Wendo, No Joke Buck, Iron Mal, Posy, and Here He Grows. Hey, all right. So let's see if anybody's asking. Everybody's just giving us some love. Somebody's asking, where do you find certification to become a bud tender? I don't know if you have some info on that.
Well, there's a couple different programs out there. Maybe we should do an article on that and include some of the more popular spots right now. We'll have to do a little bit, but bud tender certifications, there's a couple different ways to go about it. We don't happen to offer any through TRICHOMES, but we definitely know of a few people out there offering certifications. But the best thing to do is go out there and get your experience. That's for sure. Let's see here. Let's see if we can cue that up. Oh, there we go. Wicked Smart, Oaksterdam. Are they still around? If you're saying they are, I'll go ahead and second that emotion. They've been around for quite some time. And yeah, they have been around for quite some time. Been doing good stuff for a while, pushing information and education quite some time. Let's see. What is the other thing here? As we're making segue, one of the things that's happening, as we were talking about the conversation, Jason, is the fact that as people are pushing for more rights for cannabis users, you're actually having these holdout states start to push for more rights for medical cannabis patients and that kind of thing. And within that, Gary Chambers was one of the first people, I think his congressman, came out and he took an interview while smoking a blunt. Did you happen to see this article on Tom McDermott from? I'm just blanking on it. From where is he from? Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Indiana. I'm gonna queue up. Did you see the video from before?
I did. Yeah.
You did? Well, as long as no one else takes too much offense to it, I think what we're gonna do is go ahead and cue that up again.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing that, what do you think about people? I know that we had John Bond and Steve Hawkins on before, and we discussed the Gary Chambers mission and motive there. But what do you think about politicians using cannabis in the public light to get the point across?
I think it's a bold strategy. It's a gamble, but it's a definitely a decent strategy. Right now, probably in the most in our entire history of the U.S., we have the least confidence in government. Everybody is very skeptical about government and things like that. At the most, I mean, basically anything, just from fake news to whatever. So basically, this kind of thing is a statement that's almost like, hey, I'm kind of against the norm. I'm like, not going with the grain. I'm kind of against the grain. Because they always call out other, like in this article, he was basically calling out. He said, hey, all the other senators out there on 420 won't even admit that they use cannabis. I mean, say, I'm not like those guys. I'm going to tell you. Right. So that's the whole thing. I'm not like those guys. I'm not like the everyday politician. And that's kind of a big statement. I think that's going to happen with a lot of politicians moving forward from this era right now that we're at times we're in. So especially since there's so many passionate cannabis people out there that want to, see it be legalized. It's a gamble, but it's a pretty smart move. I think the balancing act is weighing more people leaning towards this guy versus the corporate, the suit and tie guys out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, hey, I got it queued up. We'll share it real quick. Couple minutes.
Let's watch it.
There we go.
The legalization of cannabis is important to this campaign.
My whole adult life, I've been surrounded by people, successful, creative people who smoke weed and who are dying for this to happen. We're ecstatic that it's happened in Illinois and in Michigan so that we can buy it legally. But why not Indiana?
37 states and 4 territories, inclusive of Washington, D.C., have medical marijuana. Prior to the Roman Empire, they talked about marijuana being used as a joint-related relief medicine.
And veterans deserve this. Some of the people I serve with use it medicinally for anxiety and PTSD-related issues.
Thousands of people I've represented had possession of marijuana charges, messed up their housing, their ability to get jobs. They lose out on mortgages. People lost jobs for getting arrested.
That's not right. We need to do better.
By legalizing cannabis, you're able to not only benefit the consumer, but the producer now, right? Now we have farms in Illinois where cannabis is being grown. The economic impact that it makes is tremendous, not only for the state, but for smaller towns as well.
I get what you guys are saying, but being in an elected position now, I feel like our responsibility to be part of this conversation. And Mayor, in the 20 years that I've known you, you've always said that someone's got to start the tough conversations, and I know you're the guy that always does.
Here's the bottom line. We need to legalize marijuana on the federal level. We need to also legalize cannabis in Indiana as well, so Hoosiers could get the health and economic benefits of cannabis. That's the future we all deserve.
All right. I know we got a couple Hoosiers out there in the comments. But yeah, like they said, someone's got to start the tough conversations. Figure it'd be a little less tough since 91% of the Americans want cannabis legalization, especially when concerning for medical. But what do you think about that, Jason?
I think it's awesome. I like his logo even was a little leaf, and then it turned into it's pretty funny.
Right.
I mean, obviously they didn't smoke much before making that commercial. Everybody's super well spoken and has a clear thought and one take. It wasn't an hour into the sesh for sure. But but I think that's the image that they're trying to convey. We got intellectuals, we got people with good heads on their shoulders. They're all pro cannabis. You can be too. It's not all about the stoner culture, right? We didn't see any bros out there on the commercial. So.
No. But and that's what it is. It's normalizing the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's And we've talked about it before on this channel and that kind of thing. It's about finding that group of people right there and being able to talk to them, writing to them until all of a sudden you can meet with them, being a part of their campaigns, doing that kind of stuff, finding those people that will actually go and have this public conversation. So, you know, it's like out in Colorado and with Charlotte Figge and the Charlotte's Web group and that kind of stuff. I mean, essentially, you know, it's one of those things that you've got to start the conversation, and politicians, they have to start it in the way they have to start it. You know, is it going to be exactly what the community wants or fit everybody's, you know, image of what it is? Nah, but it started right, and you've got the people there that are perceived leaders of the community out there, voted leaders of the community out there, saying, you know what, this is part of our conversation now, and this is it. So I agree with you. It's great to be seen that way, 100%.
Yeah, it's you know, I think it's depending on how people react to it, because that's going to really make a lot of difference. If he gets a lot of public like positive feedback from this, you're going to start seeing a lot of other people do something similar.
Right.
You know, and we're always talking about we just need, you know, a couple of, you know, validated sources to vouch for cannabis. We need the doctors to come forward and vouch for cannabis. This is like step one. You know, he's a politician that's taking a step, taking a risk, and you know, putting his foot forward for cannabis. If
Right.
it works out, other people will follow suit. Then we may see, you know, other industries, medical, all, you know, doing the same thing. So it could be a start of something big. It's just hopefully that, you know, people take it well.
Right. That's
Yeah.
well received. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And he is running for office, you know, so it is part of a campaign there. But you know, the good part about this is that most people, well, I'm sorry, most people right now are, because of public opinion, are going to be held to higher standards than previous politicians and that kind of stuff. When
Right.
it comes down to the gripes with the Biden administration and their campaign trail promises and what's been going on, and just this recent questioning that happened at 420, you know, where they deferred to, hey, you know, the people might not be out of prison, but look at these great research laws we're passing. Nothing's been happening there, and they're not being held to any level of commitment there. Hopefully, with this new vote coming in, these midterms coming in, is that the people voting for this guy, Tom McDermott, and these other people running for office get to hold them to a higher standard than what we're currently getting to hold our federal government to. Because yeah, I mean, it's tough to draw the line between what is rhetoric and just out there for campaign trail promises and somebody who's really behind it. I think a group like this is somebody that shows that they're really behind it. They put it all on the line, like you said. It's just about how well received it goes from here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you know, I don't know. That covers it kind of for the weekly roll up and the topics and that kind of thing. Anything else we wanted to jump on? I know, forget the call to actions. You know, I'll throw another shout out just because I'm over here and during the break I chiefed a little bit. We got Dime Vapes, one of our official sponsors here. That's always been a supporter here in the crowd. And you know, while I don't have a joint rolled up, I am going to go ahead and hit the pen one more time. What were you going to say, Jason?
No, just a few more people in the app. Pumpkin, Little Mac 86 made it onto the app, so
nice.
We are welcome. And Rita Kim, yep, always our nice core group in our app. So for those who are waiting for Mr. Nug, here it is. So first one to tag me in the posts will win. So you guys ready? It wasn't that hard, but I don't think a lot of you guys look at the news posts. So it was in a news post, not in a community post. So if you click on all and you filter to news, it was a post that was posted on 420. The poster was SF Gate. So I'll give you that much. So if you can find SF Gate's post from 420 in the news section of the all section, you'll find Mr. Nug. So have at it. Yeah, this 420 was really fun. Community was really popping. It's just a start, though. You know, we're really trying to make it fun, make it informative, make it a safe place to talk about cannabis and do everything cannabis. So, you know, we appreciate the support, but, you know, share it with all your cannabis friends and, you know, try to get as many people on this app so we can grow this community. But we all appreciate your support.
Yeah, and that way we can shift the conversation. I don't have to sit here and be so YouTube correct. We, you know, PC correct is one thing, but YouTube correct and other platform correctness is a whole thing. You know, these certain platforms are claiming to be cannabis friendly, but we're just a cannabis platform. So, you know, whether it's happy hour and we're rolling up together, or there's a couple different ways we can interact and be a little bit closer in the conversation. That's what it's about, is continuing the conversation and drawing in our group so that, you know, together we represent more, and more knowledge, more power, more people behind it, the better. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for everyone who's joined from the app. And as always, to our YouTube group out here, thank you very much. Thanks for everybody in the comments. It's been a great Friday, great week, great 420. Glad everybody's here and safe, and made it all the way through. We're going to be coming out again. We talked about it, and we're formulating some things, but coming up soon, we've got some new productions. We've got some strain reviews. We've got some new creators coming on. So look around the channels, and we'll be promoting some things here on this channel to show you where to go. And we'll be having some new content coming up with some new faces around here shortly. So be on the lookout. And with that, Jason, happy Friday, good sir, and happy Friday, everybody out there. And Laura, great to see you. Glad you got the end. But happy Friday to everybody out there. Have a great weekend. Thanks a lot.
Alrighty,
well.
and shout out
Oh.
STL Batman. I think you got it. I think you're the first one. So we'll verify it, but it looks that way.
Oh, hey, well, dude. Okay, we'll verify that on the app. But it looks like someone found it already, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everybody.